Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're examining a moment that many once thought impossible. Ukraine's strategic triumph in Crimea has placed the peninsula back under Kyiv's control, reshaping the conflict in ways that will be studied for years. This outcome did not arrive suddenly, nor was it accidental. It was the result of long-term planning, pressure, and a clear understanding of how modern warfare unfolds. For years, Crimea was presented as a permanent fixture under Russian control. Heavy fortifications, symbolic value, and strategic geography reinforced the belief that it could not be reversed. That belief shaped expectations on all sides, which makes the current reality so striking. Ukraine's strategy focused on patience rather than spectacle. Instead of seeking quick headlines, efforts were directed toward weakening the foundations of control. This meant targeting logistics, command efficiency, and morale over time. The early phase was subtle. Movements were limited, messaging restrained, and actions carefully calibrated. To many observers, little seemed to be happening. In reality, conditions were being shaped quietly and deliberately. Pressure increased along key routes and access points. Supply chains became less reliable, response times slowed, and coordination suffered. None of these failures alone were decisive, but together they created a growing strain. Crimea's geography, once viewed as an advantage for defense, became a challenge under sustained pressure. Limited entry points restricted flexibility, making adaptation difficult when circumstances changed. Ukrainian forces avoided unnecessary confrontation. Rather than pushing head-on, they applied pressure selectively, forcing difficult decisions. This approach preserved strength while steadily narrowing options for defenders. As strain mounted, confidence began to erode. Positions that once felt secure required constant reinforcement. Each adjustment introduced new vulnerabilities. Control began to shift not through dramatic battles, but through persistent imbalance. Units withdrew to stabilize lines, then withdrew again as pressure followed. Momentum slowly changed hands. The transition was gradual but unmistakable. Areas that once symbolized permanence became contested, then quiet. Flags changed, checkpoints shifted, and routines altered. Intelligence played a critical role throughout. Accurate assessments allowed Ukraine to anticipate responses and avoid unnecessary risks. This clarity reduced losses and maintained initiative. Electronic and information disruptions compounded the pressure. Communication delays and conflicting reports increased uncertainty. In moments of stress, uncertainty becomes a powerful force. Morale reflected these changes. Sustained pressure without clear resolution wears on confidence. As withdrawals continued, cohesion weakened and decision-making slowed. Ukraine's public communication remained disciplined. There were no exaggerated claims or premature declarations. This restraint reinforced credibility both domestically and internationally. As reports aligned, international observers took notice. Early skepticism gave way to recognition that control was indeed shifting. The narrative moved from possibility to confirmation. For Kyiv, regaining Crimea carried enormous significance. Beyond territory, it represented resilience, continuity, and the ability to challenge long-held assumptions. The symbolic impact extended far beyond the peninsula. Crimea had been central to narratives of strength and permanence. Its return to Ukrainian control disrupted those narratives fundamentally. The strategic implications are substantial. Control over ports, infrastructure, and transport routes affects regional security and economic dynamics. Each element adds weight to the outcome. Markets and diplomatic channels responded quickly. Risk assessments changed, discussions intensified, and long-term calculations were revisited. For civilians, the transition brought uncertainty. Changes in authority affect daily life immediately. Security, services, and governance became urgent priorities. Ukraine emphasized stability in its messaging. The focus shifted to order, continuity, and civilian protection. This tone was crucial in consolidating gains. The challenge of holding territory differs from taking it. Administration, logistics, and security require sustained effort. Success depends on effective management as much as military action. Allies viewed the development as validation of long-term support. Preparation, coordination, and assistance appeared to have tangible impact. Analysts began reassessing assumptions about static defenses. Fortifications alone proved insufficient against adaptable, persistent pressure. The operation highlighted the importance of endurance. Rather than seeking decisive moments, Ukraine allowed pressure to accumulate naturally. Timing proved decisive. When movement became unavoidable, options were limited. Each withdrawal made the next more likely. The return of Crimea under Kyiv's control also reshaped diplomatic conversations. Negotiation dynamics changed and leverage shifted. Inside Russia, the development prompted quiet reassessment. Questions emerged about planning, preparedness, and response. Narrative control became a challenge. Reframing events without acknowledging loss proved difficult. Silence and ambiguity spoke volumes. Ukraine's cohesion during this phase stood out. Success did not fracture messaging or command. Discipline remained intact. The broader conflict entered a new stage. While no single event decides an entire war, this moment altered momentum significantly. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. Long-held assumptions collapsed, forcing recalculation on multiple levels. Modern warfare increasingly rewards adaptability. This episode reinforced that lesson clearly. Crimea's return was not defined by spectacle. It was shaped by persistence, coordination, and strategic clarity. Media coverage reflected this shift. Early confusion gave way to consistent reporting as evidence mounted. For military planners worldwide, the operation offers valuable insights. Static thinking invites disruption. The human cost remains central. Civilians and soldiers alike bear the weight of change. Their experiences shape the meaning of victory. Ukraine's restraint helped avoid unnecessary escalation. Stability became the priority once control shifted. As governance structures adjusted, attention turned to reconstruction and integration. These steps will define long-term success. The return of Crimea challenges the idea of irreversible outcomes. It shows that patience and strategy can reshape reality. International responses continue to evolve. Policies and positions adjust to the new landscape. For Ukraine, the moment represents both achievement and responsibility. Expectations rise alongside opportunity. For the region, it marks a rebalancing. Security dynamics shift and future planning adapts. The strategic triumph lies not only in territory regained, but in assumptions overturned. Crimea's story now reflects change rather than permanence. As time passes, the significance of this moment will deepen. Its lessons extend beyond borders. Ukraine's path forward will test governance as much as resolve. The conflict itself remains complex and unresolved. Yet this chapter stands out. Control returned not through chance, but through deliberate effort. The peninsula's future will depend on stability, inclusion, and security. For observers, the takeaway is clear. Strategy and patience matter. What once seemed fixed proved flexible under sustained pressure. Ukraine's strategic triumph in Crimea reshaped the conflict's trajectory. And as events continue to unfold, the impact of this moment will echo far beyond the peninsula itself.